It was in fact transmitting the message directly to us. You think the overseer knew that you had listening devices in that room? Darren says. There is no way to be sure, the king says. However, this is the scenario which would make the most sense to me. I think the overseer was letting us know that the whole discussion we heard earlier was only a charade meant to prevent Billy Bob from obtaining the information he needed, information that might have put some of our men in danger, depending on how detailed it was. I also think that the overseer was making a direct invitation towards us when it said that we could request to speak to it if we needed more help. It would not be a far-fetched to assume that it wants to build an alliance with us. Although obviously it could also be a trap. We never know in these situations. With all due respect, my king, Albert says, do you not think that you might be overestimating the overseer just a little bit? It is after all only a machine. Machine or no, we cannot waste to afford such an opportunity. The king of the underground says, don't forget that Baron has been warning us for a long time that the overseer might in fact be smarter than it looks. We should at least try to treat this matter as seriously as we can. If it all turns out to be just one big misunderstanding, then so be it, but the potential to gain such a powerful ally on our side is too great to be simply ignored. Yes, your majesty, Albert said, of course. We will look into it as soon as we are able to. Actually, the king says, I've already sent scouts to the surface so they can monitor the green-eyed metal balls and see if they are trying to bait us into an ambush or not. As long as everything is fine, we'll be sending a small team tomorrow to negotiate with the overseer, and I would like our new allies to accompany them as well. They agree to it, of course. Ultimately, it all depends on what the healer in armor decides, since I'm assuming he's the leader of the group. Actually, neither of us is the leader, Darren says. We actually like to discuss these type of matters between ourselves before we make important decisions. I understand, the king says. In that case, I will give you some time to reach a conclusion and you can give us an answer tomorrow. Would that be alright with you? Of course, Darren says. We will tell you tomorrow what we have decided. Very well, the king says. Then we discuss the rest of the details once we have decided whether you want to join us or not. Until then, please make yourself at home. Peter will show you to your rooms as soon as we have them ready for you. But where are my manners? I shouldn't be the one talking about all. I shouldn't be the one doing all the talking. I'm sure that you have all the questions to ask to me as well. If there's anything on your mind, please don't hesitate to ask. I will answer you to the best of my ability. What kind of food do you guys have in this place? Are we free to roam around as we please while we're here? Could we get guided tour of your underground base? The guided tour sounds boring as hell, but I kind of want that. The last two options are pretty much the same. The first one is just retarded. Why would I even ask him that? I have made a mistake like this, asking someone in a higher position a very weird question, but whatever. I'll go with the guided tour. Well, most of our men are rather busy at the time, the king of the underground says, but if there is anything specific you want to know about certain area, you can ask around. I'm sure that someone will answer your question. I only have one question, Darren says. Are there any non-beginner white mages around here that could cast a quick healing spell on me and Hardrick? I'm still too tired to be able to cast any decent healing spells, and these wounds are beginning to feel a little uncomfortable. Ah, yes, of course, the king says. I will arrange for one of our healers to come see you as soon as he's done with his current patient. In the meantime, you can go back to the room where you came from and wait for him there unless you have any other questions to ask me. Nah, I think we are good for now, Hardrick says. Alright, the king says. Well, in that case, I hope you will have a pleasant stay and we'll be resuming our discussion tomorrow after you've made your decision. He pauses for a second to take a quick glance at Kate, but then he addresses one of the rebels instead. Oh, and one more thing, the king says. Braynan, I know that this won't seem fair to you, but I want you to stay behind tomorrow when our men visit the overseer. My king, Braynan's apparently in a state of shock. I realize that I'm going against your wishes, but I hope you'll respect my decision, the king of the underground says in a more firm tone. But your majesty, Braynan says, of all the people in this palace, I'm by far the one who knows the overseer the best. I also interacted directly with him on numerous occasions. That is precisely why I don't want you to be the part of team tomorrow. The king says, you're too emotionally involved in this matter to be able to keep a cool head. I want to make sure that the negotiations will be done in a professional manner by people who are in no danger of letting their feelings cloud the judgment. Rest assured that I've read all of your reports concerning the overseer, and I will make sure that the negotiation team tomorrow will be taking all your notes into account. You will, however, not be joining the team, and that is my final decision. Is that clear? Yes, your majesty, Baron says, looking rather upset. Good, the king of the underground says. I'll be seeing each of you later then. I trust that you will all make your way back to the waiting room. Yes, We'll handle ourselves, Darren says. Come on, let's go. He then limps ahead of us, and we all follow him, except for Albert, who seems to still have something that he wants to discuss in private with the king. As we make our way back into our waiting room, we all place ourselves near the chair from the exit that leads towards the teleporter, waiting patiently for the healer to arrive. In the meantime, Peter went to get our rooms ready, while Baron also went on his own way, without even saying goodbye to us, still looking pretty affected by what the king of the underground had said to him. I guess that Kelrim went back to the quarantine area, Darren says. After that, he takes a quick look around, see that the goblin is nowhere to be found. Either that or he went to look for his friends, Hardrick says. Yeah, I guess that might actually be more likely if I think about it, Darren says. Forget about that damn goblin, Naraka says. We have far more pressing matters to concern ourselves with. Like what? Iluna says. Like the fact that none of you idiots were able to counteract a simple aura manipulation technique, Araka says. Are you going to take down a god if you people can't even deal with basic techniques? Take down a god? Layla's father asks. We'll explain later, I tell Layla's father. Listen here, you old hag, Hardrick tells Araka. I don't know how you do things in your spirit plane, but over here on the earthen plane, people don't normally use their auras to attack people. It took me years to develop my aura hardening technique, and I'm not even sure if I've ever seen someone use anything similar in my travels. Hardrick, you're right, I say. I've been traveling all across the western continent in search of a way to become a mage ever since I was 17. Even the most obscure tomes that I've read did not contain any information about aura manipulation techniques. Oh yeah, Araka says. Well, too bad. Well, even if you can't do it, the gods most certainly can, and the same goes for Aiden, Golden Fox, Tyrath. Other lizard probably can't do it when he is not in his molten lava form. I'm willing to bet the Azarius can do it too, although and probably also every other mage except for that moron Talmac. This isn't something you can just ignore. Not being able to counter these types of techniques gives your opponent an enormous advantage over you. As you saw what that frail old man was doing to you earlier, you can't keep relying on me to point out the weakness of these techniques every time they're used against you. You need to learn to deal with them yourself. And how are we supposed to do that? I say, with training obviously, Araka says. I'm going to hammer the knowledge into your useless heads even if it kills me, mark my words. Right, I say. Speaking of training, I just remember that I had something important to discuss with Layla's father about my stat device. Yes, Barry, what is it? Layla's father says. Well, first of all, I was wondering if you could help me unlock my stat device, I say. We got it locked by accident yesterday while we were trying to unlock the hidden aura stats. Oh, Layla's father says, the aura stats lock. The aura stats lock. That brings back old memory. It also happened to me once when I first began tinkering with Layla's stat device in order to make it translate her thoughts into words. To answer your question, yes, I can unlock it easily. Well, that's great, I say. Will the secret stats get unlocked too after you do it? Not exactly, Layla says, but it shouldn't be that hard to unlock them manually once I'm done fixing your device. I would have made these stats available on Layla's device as well, but had to sort of permanently deactivate them on a stat booster in order to get her magical writing feature to work properly. So, can we do it now, I say? Really? Just so that she can speak? He got rid of the aura stats? Damn. That is brutal. That is brutal commitment to speaking. I suppose speaking is very important. And the stat device is like stat booster, aura device, aura, magic stats don't make you that powerful. Only reason we were able to fight Tara, that was because he was not in his full form and we were borrowing energy from, what is his name? Aiden. So, yeah. So, can we do it now? I say, right now? Layla's father says, I suppose it wouldn't be a problem. I should probably be doing some maintenance on Layla's device too, now that I think about it. It's been far too long since I had a good look at it. Let's go to my workshop and we'll see what we can do. Alright, I say, and then I turn to the others. I'll see you around in a bit. After a wave goodbye to my friends, Layla, her father, and I head together towards one of the corridors leading outside of the waiting room. As we are entering the tunnel, we can hear Hardrick's loud voice echo through the hallway as he begins to tell everyone a story from his travels that he just remembered. Barry, we always meant to ask you something, Layla writes after taking a short glance towards Hardrick right before we enter the corridor. How come you never tell us any of your stories like Hardrick and Darren do all the time? My stories? I ask her confused. Yes, Layla writes, from your travels. You did mention traveling. You mentioned earlier that you had been traveling throughout the western continent ever since you were 17, didn't you? Oh, I say. Well, yeah, I've been to a lot of places, but there isn't much to talk about. Mostly I've been just spending my time in libraries, reading old parchments and other stuff like that. None of the things I did could even begin to compare with any of the Darren and Hardrick's adventure. I would just end up boring everyone to death with my mundane stories. Mundane stories, Layla writes as she turns her head towards me and raises an eyebrow while we are still walking down corridor behind Layla's father. Didn't you once tell me that the reason why you know how to fly planes is because you've spent a few months testing out a flying machine prototypes for a mad gnome inventor in exchange for information on how to become a mage?